Welcome back to the Following Films podcast. I'm your host, Chris Maynard, and today I'm joined by writer, director, and actor Ali Cook to talk about his Oscar-shortlisted new film, The Pearl Comb. The Pearl Comb follows the wife of a fisherman whose miraculous healing powers draw the scrutiny of the medical establishment when she becomes the first person known to cure tuberculosis. A skeptical doctor is sent to investigate. Set in a time when women were barred from practicing medicine, the film explores power, belief, and the limits society puts on women. What begins as an attempt to expose her journey becomes a journey that challenges long-held scientific and gender-based assumptions. Inspired by the true story of the Edinburgh Seven, the first women to study medicine in the UK, The Pearl Comb blends historical drama with mysticism. Beyond filmmaking, Ali has had a remarkable career as both a magician and stand-up comedian, and in today's conversation, we dig into how those experiences shaped his storytelling voice, his sense of misdirection and wonder, and how performing live informed his work behind the camera. I'm thrilled to have him on the show. Let's get into it.
Hang on a sec. Oh, can you see me?
I can see you just fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to do this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, it's only 4. It's not too bad.
Oh, okay. Not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I always get a little bit off when it's we don't do daylight savings time here in Arizona, so I'm always thrown off on what time it is there.
I'm always completely out with America anyway, and then when the daylight settings change, it just completely throws me again. So yeah.
There we go. Good. Well, congratulations on the film. This is something that I was really excited to check it out, and it did not disappoint.
Oh, thanks very much. Thank you.
I was surprised to hear it being described as a horror film, because while I feel like it does have horror elements, this is not really a horror film to me. This is something that has a lot more on its mind than scaring the audience, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like it. Well, I'm a huge fan of Charles Dickens, and he. There's a very famous British writer called Highlander who said Charles Dickens did more for poverty in England than almost anyone of his time, because he would always mention poverty, but within very, very good, entertaining stories, i.e. Christmas Carol, and so I'm more of that. You have a great tale, but really the tale is about this woman feeling overlooked and unable to practice medicine, but it's all hidden within, a great story with a mermaid in it,
So what comes first for you? Is it the mermaid element, or is that sort of the human tragedy element? Do you work, which side do you work from first?
I wish I had a system, but, but the reality is it's so hard that all I'm always thinking is, can I make it better? Can I make it better? And I think before I was a filmmaker, I used to be a professional magician and also a stand-up comedian, and it's the same problem. So, like, when you're doing a comedy, it's hard to come up with great jokes. Like,
sure.
Step one, very hard. If you're a magician, very hard to come up with a trick. Once you've got those, you then have to find something to hang it off, to make it into something. And sometimes it works that you have a theme and then you go and find the jokes, or you might just have a load of great jokes and then you've got to find the theme. So in this case, I did have the legends of ancient mermaid stories in my mind, and I'd written them up. But in this instance, it was actually my ex who said, you do realize women in those times weren't allowed to practice medicine. And then that was like the moment when I was like, oh my God, I've actually got the real story now. And
you backed into it in a way.
Yeah. But I do find that you find it from the writing, like the theme comes from rewriting a lot, basically. Yeah. And eventually it's revealed to you. I wish I could go, this is my theme, and then here's a great story like 10 minutes later. Yeah.
Well, horror films, magic, and comedy actually all have something very much in common, where it's tension and release. with them, where it's about that surprise element and just look over at this for a minute. But what I'm actually doing is coming straight at you with this other thing. And that's what works about all of them, especially magic, which is actually really interesting. You don't see that crossover very often.
You don't see that. I think I'm possibly the first, but there are actually two others. Famously, the director of the film Zulu, Cy Enfield, was also one of the world's best card magicians.
I had no idea. Really?
No, I don't think anyone knows except for me. So Cy Enfield, he wrote a book called Entertaining Card Magic. Mm-hmm. And it was written, I think it was in the 50s or the 60s, and it is a really good card trick book. Huh. So this dude was great at card tricks, and he directed Zulu with Michael Caine. So,
a classic film. I mean, that's when you think of Michael Caine films, that's probably one of the top 10 that people would mention. I would imagine that's got to be. It's probably right behind Alfie, I would imagine, in the Michael Caine.
Yes, I would imagine so. Yeah, and so in a weird sort of way, this guy, Cy Enfield, I had the book and I was into magic years before films, really. But I think indirectly, jokes and tricks are in the same structure as a scene or a movie.
Okay.
But they are a little bit more upfront. It's very, very simple what's going on, but it is the same thing, basically. Yeah. Same structure. Yeah.
And could you talk a little bit about, and the visuals are very impressive here. The acting is spot on, but the first thing that caught me in this, honestly, was the sound design. Because oftentimes when I'm watching smaller films, the sound design is something that is not, I think, as focused on, and it's something that I think you get more weight out of your sound than anything else. We can forgive visuals that are a little bit off, and your special effects look great in this, by the way, and it's visually a very impressive film, but your sound is immaculate in this movie, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest. It's the thing I was the least knowledgeable about, and I was the only thing I knew is exactly what you said. So I'd made one short before, which I'd written, but I didn't direct, and I was in it, and I'd written it for my friend, and she directed it. When we were doing all of the short film circuits everywhere, the one thing I noticed is sound always suffers. Everyone is so obsessed with how it looks, they forget about sound. And I always remember watching A Band of Brothers, the TV series, and I was blown away by the sound. And that was the first time I really understood. There was a scene, I can't remember which episode it is, where they're getting the Americans are all getting bombed, and they're all just in a bunker, and the Germans are dropping bombs on them. And it was terrifying. And then a day later, I was just like, all you're hearing are just the sounds of bombs and a few actors running in the woods.
Yeah.
That's all. And it was all done with the sound. And that's when I said to myself, and what I'd seen in the short film circuit, that I really wanted to go to town on the sound design. And then the other issue you have for horror is for horror elements, you might say, is if you're venturing towards a jump scare, you've got to get the sound great. Yeah. Because I would say 60% of that is the sound as well, and getting that just right. Yeah.
You're setting up your tension in the film almost immediately with that sound, those low droning tones that you have in this. And there's this ill at ease feeling that you have when you're watching this. And you're like, I don't know why I'm uncomfortable. And then you're building towards that. And it takes a while. And then you get people more comfortable, and then it's this pull and release kind of thing that you're doing that's really, really restrained at times, which you don't see oftentimes in genre pieces.
Well, I really like, when I was a kid, I was too scared of horror films, and I got into them when I got older. But really, the person who really affected me was I saw the horror film Oculus by Mike.
Oh, sure. Yeah, a great film.
Which is not that long ago.
No.
And I think that was when he was just breaking through, I guess. And I saw it somewhere on telly, and I just watched it, and it blew me away. And I after I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I would love to make something like that. So that's when I first kind of was trying to figure out tension and release. But as a magician, I've done that forever. Really, because nothing happens in a magic trick until you get to the release, really. So, and then you're always trying to figure out how you're going to do the release of the tension, basically.
So what's more difficult for you when you're doing magic? You kind of have the trick and you can work around it with the words you're using. When you have stand up, you can play with the words and you can improv in the moment and you can make adjustments. A film, you put it out there and that is what it is. When an audience, you can go back and tweak it, but that audience that saw it, that's all they saw. And that's all they'll ever know.
That's the one thing that gets me really nervous. So when we did the cast and crew screening, firstly, it's the cast and crew, so they all worked on it. So that to me was more nerve-wracking. That felt more like showing, your mum something than a random audience. You all know each other, and they all came and it was a big crew as well. So it was a full audience. So that was terrifying. But it was terrifying because I can't edit in the moment. It's too late. It was too late 3 months ago. It's too late. So I found that was the thing I found really scary, because if you're doing a live show, you can somehow do something in the moment that makes it a bit better if the crowd is lagging. And so you are having to do that thing of really trying to predict what the audience is thinking at every single moment. And it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
How did that cast and crew screening go? What was the reception like? Because you can tell that this was a labor of love for people. I think you can feel that people really put their hearts into it.
They really did. And I feel like that's a little bit of luck. Well, I think it is because, like our production designer, Izzy, it was incredible, for example. And she only came on like a week or two before we did it. And, because it's only a short, and also it's always really hard trying to just gather the crew anyway. Even though I had the help of what I would call real producers for a short, it's still hard with people's availability. But everyone really got into it, and it was a great reaction. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't feel like a short in its scope, in its ambition, and in the emotional impact that it has. A lot of shorts oftentimes feel like a joke where it's just the setup, punchline, and that's it. And so you do that. You actually have a fully resolved story here. I feel like you have a full arc within this, which is sometimes it feels like a calling card that we really want to do this 2-hour movie. This is 30 minutes of it that we're kind of truncating. This does feel like a fully realized story.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing. The two things I've always noticed in shorts is...
I think we've been to some of the same festivals.
Well, it's always is there really a finish is a big issue, and sound design. Those are the two things. I honestly think you could shoot a great short with your iPhone if you've got great sound and you have a very clear story and with a clear ending, basically. So those are the things I've always thought about. However, it's slight magician training to go out with a bang. Like that's proper, like,
of course,
that, it's always, always make the elephant appear at the end of the show. And if you look at the structure of my short films, they always have a ta-da at the end, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the mermaid? Because getting that right is crucial, and the mermaid looks fantastic here. I think getting that costume, prosthetics with visual effects. I have no idea how you did this, but it looks phenomenal. So,
well, it's that horrible thing of imagine if you watched Star Wars, but the lightsabers looked naff. That would be, and then the whole of Star Wars is ruined for you, and that's the really awful thing about you might say genre films in a way, that it's kind of, it would be all of a sudden or a period drama, but the costumes aren't right, that you've really added to your burden. And of course you don't think about this when you're writing it. It's only when you actually go to do it, you're like, oh my God, I've got to try and get this. But the one of the tricks we did was we had a very strong LUT in the camera, which are all of your settings that he kind of gives you a grade as you're filming it, basically. And then we continued that grade in at the end of the edit. And if you look at the colouring of that grade, it's very similar to the colouring of the mermaid tail.
Sure, yeah.
So that was one of the ways to try and make her seem very realistic.
That's interesting. That wouldn't have occurred to me because, you do have kind of muted tones aroon the tail. And
Yeah, and also I sent them a picture of a rainbow trout. Because in my head, I was trying to think, what is a bog standard fish? And it is that sort of iridescent, silvery green. Rather than her being sort of fantastical and colourful, it was to make her quite sort of monochrome and simple, really. Yeah.
No, and it absolutely works. It doesn't feel outside of the world. It does feel like a part of that world that she's in. And could you also just talk a little bit about the casting of the film? Because the performances here are really strong across the board.
Well, I was very lucky in two respects. So, number one, I'm good at being condescending. So I was so I thought I was perfect to play the Doctor. And then
sure, yeah.
And then Beatie Edney, she's a known British TV actress.
Okay.
And she was in a TV series called Poldark here on British telly.
I haven't seen it.
I hadn't seen it, but Amy, who's my associate producer, her mum was a big fan of Beatie Edney's.
Okay.
And we were very lucky to get Beatie. That was a direct offer.
Okay.
Simon, who plays the husband, he's the lead in my previous short.
Okay.
And so I know Simon. And in my previous short, he played a mysterious farmer. So it wasn't a huge leap to be a mysterious fisherman. In fact, it was probably the same costume. I can't remember, but And then the hard one, though, was finding the mermaid. That was an open casting. We went far and wide, and we did do self-tapes. And it was just very hard to find that person who is, definitely alluring, but then also has that kind of, at any moment, think she could just kill you, but you're not quite sure if she will or she won't. But like a cat, when a cat sits there looking at you, and you think, oh, this cat's so sweet and lovely, but at the same time, he might just attack you. It's that sort of feeling,
sure.
Really.
Yeah, there's menace beneath her eyes. There's that thing that it could go south very quickly, but there's something that is very alluring, that draws you in further. And that's what the mermaid has to do more than anything, I think, is draw you in a situation you shouldn't want to be a part of.
And I thought that Clara was brilliant. She did a great job. She really was.
Absolutely.
And the other thing about Clara, she has incredible hair. So we didn't have to. I always thought we were going to have to put a wig on someone, but that is Clara's hair.
Oh, wow.
She's got amazing mermaid thick hair. Yeah. It's just incredible, yeah.
Did you have any moments when you were making the film, you talked about writing it and having those kind of, oh, I wrote a mermaid, how the hell am I going to pull this off? Did you have any moments while you were shooting and had that thought to yourself, who wrote this shit? Like, why am I in this situation right now? And you want to slap yourself from a year and a half ago?
Actually, not with this film.
Okay.
I felt that we always a little bit lucky. Oh, no. There was one moment, actually. There was one moment, which was when he's carrying the mermaid.
Sure, yeah.
We hadn't really calculated that, Simon's in his 60s. And Clara she's a very fit and healthy woman. However, I think she's like also a Pilates instructor or something. So she's like pure muscle.
Sure.
So she's pretty heavy. Right. So just holding Clara and walking down a rocky beach. It was, and of course you're having to do about 8 or 9 takes in a row.
Of course.
So that was the one time, like, oh my God, I hope so. And Simon wouldn't stop. He wouldn't. And I was like, I hope he doesn't keel over at some point. That was the one bit. And it was beginning to rain as well. Okay. On that. That was a tricky bit. Yeah. And also there was a bit when they're chatting just before he attacks. They were stood in the sea doing that bit. And the sea, because it was November, it was ferocious. So we were all bobbing up and down a little bit at that bit. Yeah.
It's those, you always hear that you should never work with, children or work on the ocean, and you're taking yourself, you're shooting outside, but you're putting yourself in the ocean where you're going to have inconsistent light and all these different things that are going to happen. And it creates challenges that are sometimes unnecessary, but if you would have shot this anywhere else, I mean, that does so much for the production value. I think that the locations here are just phenomenal.
Well, we were super lucky in that it's a private beach owned by this family that have been there for years, like apparently generations, and they're all holiday cottages in that area. And we were there. We were the only weekend or whatever where there was no one staying out of the whole year.
Wow!
And we were super lucky. But it is. We were actually in Penzance, which is where all the legends came from, and I think there's something about trying to be in the town where the stories come from, because they somehow match up. If I'd have heard some legend from Japan, if you'd have actually gone to that town in Japan, for some reason, I think it helps the story.
Oh, yeah. If you're in New Orleans, it's a voodoo story, that kind of thing. It has to be the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So then is there, again, kind of another question on the sound element of it, and with the weather being as rough as it was with the ocean, how much of the dialogue was ADR'd? Because it seems like it would be rough to get good sound out recording in those elements.
That's a very clearly a point from someone who's made films. And so my sound guy is a guy called Mark Wellman, and he was just great. The only tricky one was the walking down the beach. And I mean, we were doing the usual, like booms and then mics, but it was just the pebbles as he walked down the beach and a little bit of wind. So we had to do a bit of ADR, but not ADR. Sorry, we did a wild track after that scene, and we used a little bit of the wild track, but we mostly got away with it. I think we only ADR'd like 3 or 4 lines per person, really, maximum. And we had a great sound recorder, so we were kind of lucky. I'm not a fan of ADR.
Okay.
As an actor, I'm not a massive fan of it, because I don't know whether you can always get to that spot you were in when you were doing it on the day, basically.
It's incredibly challenging to match your own performance. And again, it's one of those things where, why was I doing that with my face at the time? And you're looking at it and it's so hard to pull off.
I mean, I've seen... I mean, obviously, when you're an actor, that's part of the job. You just got to be able to do it no matter what. But for me, I think whenever I can get the actual sound on the day, wherever possible. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So what has the reception been like outside of friends and family, outside of your mom seeing it? Like, how have people been responding to it so far?
Yeah, it's actually been really good. And we've had a good response. Originally, we were aiming it towards the more sort of genre type festivals, but we really branched beyond that. Yeah. So we've had a really good response all around the world, actually. And it's been pretty consistent.
It's been an incredible year for recognition of genre films outside of, something like Weapons, I think, and Sinners are in talks for Academy Awards at this point. And they're doing really well. And some of the most well-received films have been genre films. Do you think there's something going on in the air that's causing people to look to those stories?
I sincerely hope so. I don't know. I think maybe things go in cycles. Sure. I don't think there's always any sort of predicting of these things, really. I mean, one thing that I did find interesting in Tampere, which is where we actually premiered. So Tampere is not maybe so known out in the States, but it's not even that known in Britain. But in Europe, it's massive. And I had no clue. It's a huge short film festival, one of the biggest in Europe. And it's only really predominantly shorts. And they'd really opened up to genre in the last few years. And I heard that Berlin has done the same. And I think some of it certainly I met the programmer from Berlin, and he was saying we need younger people to come to the festivals, and we need to get fresh blood in, basically.
Yeah.
And genre is the way forward. It seems it gets the younger audiences in.
Makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So then, how will people be able to see the film outside of a festival? Will there be a release for it?
There is actually going to be a release.
Oh, wonderful! Good.
I'm lucky to say there's going to be a release coming soon.
Okay.
But I can't talk about it.
Of course not. Yeah.
But I would love to tell you. I can't. Yeah. But pretty soon, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that's good, because it's been one of those things where most people don't go to film festivals, and of the people that go to film festivals, they're usually going to see one or two things with stars and kind of that thing. A lot of people don't take the time to sit through the shorts blocks and to, engage with people they've never heard of before. It's always one of my favorite parts of any film festival I go to. And because I'm looking for new voices, and I'm looking for that, that new band that I've never heard before. That's kind of okay, I'm going to hang my hat on this person for a little while, see what I get from that. And it's never been a better time, though, for releasing that. All the streaming services have shorts on them now, and with YouTube and all these other things, you get formal releases of shorts, and they're accessible in ways they never were before.
Well, it's got more accessible, and again, one of the new styles of thinking that seems to be coming through is because younger generations are much more social media savvy.
Yeah.
The idea that a film might only be 20 minutes doesn't seem a bad thing anymore. That, I think it always used to be, a short film, someone's having a bit of a crack at it.
Yeah.
But it's not a film. But now, because people are so used to watching 1-minute YouTube videos and loving them, that it doesn't seem to have the same stigma anymore. And it's just genuinely seen as a more accepted format, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And that younger generation, they will watch something that is a 4-hour deep dive into the lore of a video game or something, or they'll watch things that are a minute long. I think that they are much more savvy about the length not being the end all for it. People that are my age, that are 50, they see something that's 3 hours and 15 minutes and they say, oh, that's just too much, I'm not going to do it. Or, and they complain about it. And I think that generation
that's definitely the average 50-year-old. It's 3 hours, no way.
I mean, but I've never watched Goodfellas and felt like they should have shaved a half hour off of that. I get to if a movie earns it, hang out. If a movie doesn't earn it, again, going to festivals, I've watched 15-minute shorts that were 13 minutes too long. Yeah. So it's individual. If the story dictates it, that's what you need to do. So
that's what I think. I think every story has its own length, and half of it, it's a thing I learned from doing comedy was a comedy premise.
Yeah.
It's either a one-liner or it could be a 4-minute bit, and you don't know until you do it. Yeah.
And sometimes it's that you could get it down to just the purest, like distill it down. And it's just, this is the heart of the joke. But then you have that thing where you build it out and you tell these other two jokes along the way. And then it creates something much bigger. That's just beautiful. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love stand-up comedy. It is storytelling, essentially.
Completely. Yeah. No, I'm kind of missing that a bit at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you get that immediate buzz when you're doing it, but I don't miss the traveling. Not at all. Oh my God.
Okay. Totally unrelated, but kind of, I know we're almost at time here, but do you remember the first joke you wrote that you decided I could tell this in front of an audience?
Well, where I could tell in front of an audience. I can't remember what the actual joke was, but I remember I did a writing course and then you had to do 5 minutes.
Oh.
And I survived, and that's when I thought, I can do this.
Okay.
So, just surviving is a good sign with stand-up. Yeah. So
if you went into your old notebooks and you pulled out that 5-minute writing assignment, how would that be more uncomfortable than looking at the poetry that you wrote when you were 15 years old? What would be more embarrassing?
Yeah, much more, because the worst thing, well, I don't know what the trend is there, but the trend in Britain is to go to shock humor first.
Sure. Yeah. There's there's a little bit of everything, but that is one.
Like, ooh, you've got no subtlety and you don't know what you're doing yet. So
yes, there is a lot of that, and it's something I'm not a huge. I don't mind. I'm not offended, but it feels cheap to me when that's what you go for. It's like, oh, I'm not a comedian, so I don't feel like I can say what hack is necessarily, but that feels hack to me when you're just going to the common denominator and this is the joke that I'm going to tell about the thing. And I'm being shocking for the sake of shocking. I don't actually have anything to say.
Yeah, that's completely it. But these are certain. They're almost like phases. It's like everyone does that, and then eventually you find your persona, and then the jokes relate to your persona, basically. But it takes ages. So yeah. So
what'll be next for you? Another stand-up set or another film? What's going to be next on the horizon?
I'm working on 3 scripts, and of which one we're pretty close on. So I'd like to hope I'll jump to a feature. That's what I'm hoping for, because I think that the Pearlcomb has the qualities of a feature. So I think I could do it. Yeah. So
I would 100% agree with that. This does not feel lesser than. This doesn't feel like a thing that was made by a couple kids on the weekend. This feels highly polished. This is something that stands next to any other tile on Netflix. I feel like you have a really wonderful film here, and I highly recommend people check it out. Where should I send people on social media to follow you, or where can I send to get more information about the film?
So if you go Ali and then ALI_Cook or the Pearlcomb film, one or the other,
you'll find it. I'll put notes in the show notes. I'll put links to those in there just to make sure people can find your stuff, because I want people to see this film. This is a great one. Congratulations. I have my fingers crossed for you. I know this was shortlisted, so I think you got something special here, Ali. I think I expect to talk to you again about the feature. At least I'm hoping to.
Oh, cheers. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I hope you have a great weekend. Happy holidays.
You too. See you soon. See you later.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.